Early in my sculpting career, I was in Italy, and I was told a story about Michelangelo and his creation of Moses. If you've ever seen this in person, it's one of the most impressive sculptures you'll ever encounter in your life. It's one of the most precise things that I've ever seen a sculptor do, and it's truly impressive. The story goes that Michelangelo, after finishing this incredibly impressive piece, was sitting in his studio looking at it. And he looked at it and he said, "You're just too damn perfect." And he threw a chisel at it, and it hit the hand and broke one of the fingers off of it. To do something like this, what you have to do is you create a sculpture out of clay. And then you take very, very precise measurements. And you translate those measurements onto the marble. You put points on the marble, and then you carve to those points, and then you do the precise measurements again, getting ever and ever more precise until you get something like this. It takes a lot of different sculptures of the clay, and it takes a lot of goes at the marble to get it right. So that's Michelangelo's process. That is not my process. My name is Nick Leavens. I'm a sculptor. I come from a background of film and theater. In my background, it's bound by a different set of rules. The well-made play, you have a lot of different structures of screenplays. You have your 3-act structure, your 8-sequence structure, your Harmon secular cycle. And all of these forms are bound by a collaborative spirit that goes across the mediums. So when I started to work in the visual arts, it was a pretty big shock to my system, going from something that I'm working with collaborators to a solo art form. So this is where I started sculpting. I was traveling in Italy years ago, and I was taking classes, doing tours, and I randomly decided to take a marble sculpting class. There, I met the guy in the very far picture, Marco, who's a master stone sculptor in this quarry, which is a 2,000-year-old quarry in Carrara. I asked the Fabiola, whose family's owned the quarry for 500 years, how long they've been in operations. She said since the year before Christ, which really puts things in perspective for you. When in a place like this, looking over a stone quarry to the Mediterranean, you're struck by the age of the place, the history. It's said that a lot of Michelangelo's blocks came from this specific quarry, and I was overwhelmed by what I didn't know. I learned a lot about the form just in my first day of working with Marco, and things I wasn't expecting to know. Stone, like wood, has a grain, and the direction that you come at the stone with changes how you're sculpting it. It changes the forms that you're able to take, the pressure that you need to put on the piece. The manipulation of the tools that you're using completely defines the piece and how you're using it. And the most striking thing is the process of polishing. And I never really expected that polishing would take as much time as it does, and how much it would transform the stone and the ability for it to have different types of look. What was most impressive to me is impressed upon me on that day, working solo, is it became a conversation with the stone, as opposed to my normal art form, which was a conversation with a group of people in order to create something together. So it was really a very different process. And I'm imagining probably when you're thinking of me or anybody else sculpting, you're probably thinking of stuff like this. You know, it's me with a big block of stone, and I'm coming at it with a chisel or my pneumatic hammer and chisel, and we're really pounding away at it, you're probably thinking of force and a block being subjugated by a person. It's about scale and the monumental and doing these giant things that last forever. In reality, my work looks a little bit different. My work looks more like this. My work looks small. It's delicate. It's time-consuming on the most minute things. And that's by design. It's because I take a very different approach than what Michelangelo was doing in creating truly monumental works. I became very interested in the relational nature of objects and person. And I'll get a little bit about what that means, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how I work first. I'm often working small. I'm working on delicate items. I'm working on breakable things. I'm working on things that take a lot of time to polish. And you'll see here, I'm using really, really fine tools on really, really small things. And I want to say again, I'm spending a lot of time polishing. It's all about polishing. My life is sandpaper and polishing. What I do is very conversational with an object. And I often ask the question to the actual rock of, what do you want to become? And this comes out of a specific place. I started making things for people. I started making rings. The first piece that I decided to make, I wanted to make for my best friend who was coming out as trans, who disappeared on my friend group for about a year. We didn't know why, and then she came out. And I wanted to make something for her that was small and special and a talisman of a renewed friendship. I wanted to make something that was representing protection, so I made her a ring of protection. I put a blessing on an object that I made, and I gave it to my friend. And it was a really, really special thing between us. It became exactly what it was intended to be, a renewal of our friendship. So each piece of stone that I work with becomes something for somebody. In my work with the stone, it has taken the place of my collaborator. So each piece is a call and a response. I'm adapting to the stone rather than trying to force my will upon it. What happens in the process is each stone is different. Like I said, each stone has a grain, each stone has different nuances to it. Each type of stone has nuances to it. Some stones have veins, some don't. Some are really brittle, some are really hard, some are really fragile. And when you're working with small pieces, the stone sometimes decides it doesn't want to be the thing that you want it to be. Also, sometimes the stone decides it doesn't want to be the shape you want it to be. And so in that, I'm meditating on the person that I'm making the thing for. The stone's telling me I want to be this, not this. Sometimes the stone is compliant, sometimes it's defiant, and I just kind of go with it. So in making things for people, I started very, very specifically trying to force a stone to be a thing, and then stones kept breaking and telling me, I don't want to be that. I want to be something else. And I just let it happen. With each person, I'm left with a custom piece that comes out of a conversation between me as an artist and the stone. And during that time, I'm usually meditating on the purpose of the stone and why I'm making it for the person. I get commissions now, and I do long-form interviews with people. Where are you at in your life? What are you doing? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your fears? And while I'm making that, making the piece for them, a ring usually, I'm keeping that in mind. And the stone is helping me along the way to define what it wants to be. I love this process for a lot of reasons. I spend hours thinking about a specific person and their conditions, their life, and what they want. People have come to me to commission pieces when they are going through big life transitions, moves across the country, divorces, new jobs. And it's really terrific to be able to share in that with them. A lot of times people just commission me because they like the look of a thing. And that's great too. We'll spend time talking about aesthetics and the decision to make something that looks a certain way for a specific reason, or they like a color, or they like a specific artist, and we try to do that. I also started spending a lot of time considering object and materiality and what that begins to mean in my relationship with things around me. When you start to spend time in the creation of objects, not just for the purpose of selling them, but for the purpose of them imbuing meaning to the person that they're going to be held by for the rest of their life, it changes your relationship with things, with all things. And so this decision not to measure and let an object come into being as it wants to come into being, because the object has existed well before I came across the stone that I transform into this thing, it really makes you think about everything that you're interacting with on a daily basis. And my partner will note that I hate to throw things away because of it. And I spend also hours considering the nature of impermanence and the durational nature of things and how that relates to time. When you spend time with stone, you start to think about all of the things that we've inherited from other cultures and the things that they made in stone. You start to think about the other things that were made before people were starting to make things out of stone. We tend to think about history when we start to recognize objects made in stone. And that history starts about 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. And more we are finding things in wood and fabric that have lasted. It's really, really rare, but they're there. And there was culture before there was things in stone. I just happen to have found an artistic medium that lands on a continuum where it's more durational than others. And if you start to think about time in this way, it really lands very hard with the things that you're holding on to every day. What's important to you, and what are the things that you think of as lasting in your life? So I have a few hopes in this. I hope that my work changes how people interact with the things around them, especially for the things that get made for them. I hope that people think differently about the things I make for them, but that's my personal hope. I also think that I have a deep hope that we can change the way that we think about sculpture from only being things that are monumental to things that are small. And those small things have equally monumental meaning to the individuals that they're made for. And I hope to create items that are intended to be cared for and lasting with meaning and time. Something like this that's on my hand and the things up here need to be cared for or they'll break. This whole series of rings is called This Too Shall Break. The intention is that if you don't take care of it, that they might break. If you do take care of it, they might break. That's such as the impermanence of things. And that's okay. So enjoy it while it lasts. So I'm going to leave you with a thought. On a long enough timeline, no one remembers the name of any artist. But we do remember objects infused with purpose and care. I think that future generations will always feel the meaning of the art that's left behind. Thanks.